We have breaking news tonight. A federal trade court is blocking President Donald Trump from imposing sweeping tariffs on imports under emergency powers law.
I'm amazed it took this long, to be honest, because it's like, look, Donald Trump can do a lot of stuff to disrupt American life. Whether you like it or not, half of Americans feel like women shouldn't have the right to an abortion, roughly. Half of Americans really don't care what happens to immigrants. Half of Americans are super pro police, like whatever bizarre belief that you want to put out there. But what everyone can agree on is that they don't like being broke. Okay, there's not a single American that likes being broke. Okay, and even more so are people that actually like have money. They don't want to be like the rest of us poors. And Trump's wee measuring contest with Xi Jinping is so detrimental to anyone trying to accumulate any kind of wealth in America that it was inevitable that some force would stop him. I'm glad that it was the judiciary and not something more violent, but let's see what this breaking news is looking like.
Three-judge panel ruled Trump exceeded his authority when he imposed his tariffs. The ruling comes in response to a multi-state lawsuit led by Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield. Earlier this year, the president imposed tariffs on almost every country before pausing them just days later. Tariffs usually have to be approved by Congress, but the president used the emergency powers law to impose his tariffs.
Yeah, like Trump did this illegally, right? It should be an impeachable offense. If this was like Obama doing it, obviously it would be impeachable. That kind of goes without saying. But basically Trump's style has been to just declare emergencies. Like, we have to suspend habeas corpus for immigrants because we're being invaded. Or, this is a state of emergency, so we need to crank up the prices on everyone as I see fit. Now, anyone with a good faith interpretation of the law would know that he couldn't do that. But everyone, it seemed like, was committed to having a bad faith interpretation. But I guess this shadow court, the Commerce Court, I didn't even know it existed. It has 3 members. We're like, nuh-uh, no more. And we haven't even seen Trump's response yet. As of this video, he hasn't even made a response yet.
Joining us now for more on the ruling is Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield. Thanks for coming on the program.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me.
Your team argued the case before the court just last Wednesday. Did you expect this ruling to come this quickly?
The one thing, we filed this court in the United States Court of International Trade, which is a specialty court, and they had been moving incredibly quickly in terms of getting a result. And so we had a feeling that they were going to continue in how quickly they were moving. Of course, this is an incredible order, striking down 4 different sets of tariffs under 4.
Yeah, it's really not surprising that they did this so quickly because we were really on the verge of empty shelves. I think Trump himself even knew that such a substantial dip in trade would be really dramatic for the American people. That's why he kind of winded them back a little bit, because let's remember, there is no strategy. Trump is just kind of doing whatever he wants. You know what I mean? This is just him playing play and being the big guy and kind of catering to his fans. So they'll eat up whatever he says. So he just wanted to challenge China just to see if he had the cojones, right? But when he saw how bad it was going to get, he kind of, brought it back. But he saved face. Like, he made it sound like China was playing ball with him, when in reality we know that they weren't. Like, they probably were like, go screw yourself, right? And now that we're really getting close to the line, now that these trade ships are coming in like half empty and stuff, no wonder they wanted to move so quickly.
4 different executive orders.
The president has argued that other countries have been taking advantage of the U.S. for years and that the tariffs would bring jobs and manufacturing back to the United States.
The United States takes advantage of everything that's ever existed, okay? This is truly the nation of theft. All right. Obviously.
What's your response to that argument?
Well, specifically, Congress is given the power to set tariffs, and they gave some of that power to the president, and they did that under Title 19, a real specific law with safeguards for our economy, because Congress knows that if you implement tariffs recklessly, that is going to impact our economy. There needs to be predictability for small businesses, frankly, for consumers. And when you don't do that, it's effectively a tax on all Americans. And what has happened here is
Predictability, what a word. I feel like Donald Trump doesn't care about being predictable. In fact, I think the source of his power is his unpredictability, and he knows that. He likes the fact that he roils things up. I mean, that's just standard celebrity stuff. Like, if you're a celebrity, it's your job to stay in people's minds, and I think he views the presidency as like the ultimate platform of celebrity, you know.
court said, yeah, you can do tariffs. Just do them right. Do them under the law that we intended, Section 19. You cannot misuse an emergency power. And specifically, the president did it under an emergency power because he knew that he wouldn't be able to do it under the law that Congress rightfully passed that gave him powers. In fact, just a reminder, no other president has ever used this emergency.
Impeachable. This is impeachable. He's using this power in a way that's never been wielded before, specifically to meet his own ends at the expense of the American people, right? Like, this is a Republican. Like, shouldn't the Republicans be pissed? Shouldn't the Republicans be pissed about all this, yo? Like, you know, like, aren't they supposed to be like the fiscally responsible ones? It's like, what are they proving here?
Power for tariffs, and since the entire enactment of this law, every single president has used Title 19, not the emergency powers.
The administration could appeal the ruling. Where do you see this fight going forward now?
Yeah, the administration actually quickly filed notice of appeal, so this will be going up on appeal, and that'll go to a federal circuit, the federal circuit in Washington, D.C., and our lawyers and ourselves will be there to argue that case as it winds through the courts.
Hopefully this doesn't get to the Supreme Court. Hopefully. But it might. I mean, I don't know. Like, the Supreme Court they are kind of signaling, like, they're kind of getting sick of all this Trump shenanigans. But if it really came down to it and they asked the Supreme Court, like, hey, does the president have ultimate authority? Based on their rulings in the past, it's likely that they'd be like, sure, why not? You know what I mean? They'd be like, sure. I mean, and also, too, it's like, they told him, and this is like completely unrelated, but it's completely related. They told him, bring back Kilmar Abrego Garcia. They said, bring him back, and they didn't do it. And he didn't do it. So it's like, you know, Jesus, like, you know, the judiciary, I don't know how the judiciary is going to enforce their power here. I mean, it seems like this is a big deal, but I don't know if tomorrow Trump is going to be like, actually, to hell with them. I don't care. I'm going to keep doing it. Right? Like, I mean, who's going to stop him from doing that?
Breaking news of the night is that Donald Trump's illegal tariffs are gone, thanks to a ruling of the United States Court of International Trade. Futures trading is now soaring tonight in the expectation of an explosively positive reaction by the stock market tomorrow when the world will reset itself.
How come I never have money when all these critical financial events are happening, yo? What the hell? What the hell? Everyone's like, oh, buy the dip, buy the dip. Motherfucker, I can't even buy groceries. Man, and it sucks because, like, I know what's going on. Like, yeah, like, probably now's probably a great time, like, literally right now, before the markets open up tomorrow, like, because it's gonna be positive. It's gonna be positive. Oh, man.
Around the restoration of law and order in international trade and the crushing of the Trump tariffs and resultant personal worldwide humiliation of Donald Trump. The Trump tariffs were always illegal and unconstitutional, and you heard that on this program every time we covered Donald Trump.
This is the definition of a smug liberal, but he's saying things that I agree with, so who cares?
Trump's comments about tariffs, including very much during the presidential campaign when the campaign press corps never, ever reported to voters that the Trump proposed tariffs during the campaign were completely illegal and unconstitutional. The campaign press corps never reported to voters that those proposals were constitutionally insane. And the person pronouncing those proposals at those Trump rallies was constitutionally out of his mind.
He's constitutionally insane, yo. He's constitutionally insane. I agree. Whatever.
Just based on what he was saying about tariffs alone, the campaign press corps completely failed the American voter on this issue, with American voters just discovering tonight from the International Court of Trade just how illegal and unconstitutional the Trump tariffs always have been.
I mean, we all knew that he probably can't do that, right? Well, actually, we all knew that he couldn't do that, right? But nobody knew if he could do that in technicality, because that's just the way that he rules. I feel like not always, maybe not even most of the time, but presidents in the past have at least had the deference to pretend like they were the most concerned with like what the law says, you know? And if something that they were doing just didn't quite jive, then they could, you know, they would pretend like, oh, what an oopsie. You know, Trump is like, yeah, I know the Constitution doesn't let me do that, but, you know, I interpret it differently. Screw that.
The United States Court of International Trade, which has exclusive jurisdiction over cases involving tariff disputes, has ruled unanimously that when it comes to tariffs, Donald Trump does not have, quote, unbounded authority, and the court sets aside the challenged tariffs. The court gave the plaintiffs suing the Trump administration even more than they expected. The plaintiffs include 12 states with
Arizona, shout out. New Jersey wasn't a part of it, my home state, but you know, I'm sure they'll get their revenge for Ross Baraka and stuff.
Democratic governors who sued, arguing that the Trump tariffs are unconstitutional and illegal, and asked the court for at least a temporary injunction, temporarily blocking the tariffs. But the court went all the way and delivered a full and final ruling in the case, granting what the court calls a summary judgment against Donald Trump and all of his tariffs.
And that's a crazy part too. It's like, I made a TikTok about this earlier, and I didn't say all the tariffs because that just sounds too sweet. All of them? Awesome. Yeah, I'm sick of all of them. I really wonder if like this is going to affect like our global standing, right? Like, I don't know if other countries are going to see that our court did that and they're like, oh man, like the Americans aren't so bad. It's just Trump that they elected. You know what I mean? It's like, maybe it'll be like, oh, like maybe it is kind of 50-50 over there, rather than them thinking that we're all on board with all this nonsense that he's doing.
As of this hour tonight, it is no longer legal at any port of entry in the United States for a United States Customs Service to collect a single dollar of Trump tariffs. Civil lawsuits like this seldom have such total and complete and final victories just 2 weeks after the court heard arguments in the case. Victories in this case for plaintiffs at this stage of this kind of litigation are very unusual. But
historic W's, Lawrence Kasdan says. Historic W's.
Here we are. And as I've been reporting to you literally for years now, there are few things more clear in law than Congress's complete authority over tariffs. The Court of International Trade said in its opinion that even if Congress wanted to give Donald Trump power over tariffs, it would be unconstitutional to do so.
Yeah, it's like, remember Congress, right? Like, you remember like Congress, right? Congress that has like more power than the president in theory, right? Like, I don't know. And the thing is too, that's ironic, is that like Trump has defeated Congress by just kind of getting them on his side. Like, so many Republicans know that a Donald Trump endorsement is the ticket to them remaining in power. And also the key to like their further political aspirations, that they're just kind of going along with all this stuff. I don't think that, you know, these Republican politicians that are heavily invested in the market were in love with these tariffs. Hell no, of course they weren't. But they knew that they themselves were insulated enough that they could kind of just ride this thing out. And they're probably wiping the sweat off their brow because it's like, okay, sweet. So now Trump can't do this crazy thing that none of us wanted. And it's not even like a win for the Democrats. It's just like, oh man, you judges, they can just shake their fists at the judges. Also, it's like, will Trump double down on this? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. He could ignore the Supreme Court again, so we could have constitutional crisis number 12, right? But I think it would be harder to pull that off logistically because he said no port is allowed to collect a tariff. So it's like, how are you going to force people to collect a tariff that's illegal? You know what I mean? Is ICE gonna stand with a gun in their back, be like, you better collect that tariff. I don't care what the judges say. You know. I don't know. It's really too early to tell. We don't even have Trump's reaction yet. I'm just going to post this video just to capitalize on it. But hopefully this is the end of the tariff saga. You know, maybe we can get some justice for these immigrants. Maybe if we can get some justice for these federal workers, then we'll be able to survive the next 3.5 years. You know, I don't know.